Welcome to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum in Prescott, Arizona. My special guest today is Dr. Paul Fees, our Deputy Director of Program at Sharlot Hall Museum. And today we're going to talk about an annual event that's coming up just next week, the Prescott Indian Art Market. It's going to be here at Sharlot Hall Museum on September 20th and 21st. And Paul, is it our 27th year? Is that right?
27th annual.
27th annual Prescott Indian Art Market. It's a cornerstone of the annual events here in Prescott. One of the at the end of the season, but I would say that it is a celebration that people have been looking forward to almost for 3 decades here. And when people start to gather in Prescott around Memorial Day, around the Fippen Art Show, they know that the season of gatherings here in Prescott, of people that come here from all over the country and around the world to celebrate Prescott, they come here for the Prescott Indian Art Market, always here in the 3rd week of September.
It's interesting to me. This was founded 27 years ago by the curator of anthropology, Sandra Lynch, and the expectations of success were such that those big, beautiful posters were printed first annual Indian Art Market, PIAM, and it's become highly successful for the community, of course, and for the museum as an event to bring people together. But it's also become highly successful in the quality of the artists and the quality of the presentation over the years. It's now, I think, one of the truly prestigious Indian art markets in the western United States.
And it's not like, and the one thing I think that separates this art market from a lot of others that people experience here in Prescott and communities across the state of Arizona during the summer and all seasons, is that this is a juried show. It isn't, you just can't sign up to have a booth at the Prescott Indian Art Market at Sharlot Hall Museum. We have a jury of artists who oversee the applicants, and so you have to be accepted, just like Santa Fe Art Market and the Hurd Art Market. Is that correct?
That's right. And in fact, the jury is made up of highly successful, highly skilled artists themselves, all of them award winners in their fields, jewelry and pottery and photography and the other traditional Indian arts as well. So it's not easy necessarily to get in. Even if you've been doing it for a while, you still have to prove your stuff each year.
Right. Nothing grandfathers you into the art market. You have to apply each year and demonstrate not only your proficiency, but that what you are doing, you're continuing to evolve as an artist, and demonstrate that you should continue to be part of this select and very intimate community, because we have approximately 75 to 80 artists, or is a little bit more, a little bit less, but that's a lot smaller than the big shows.
Right. It's far more intimate. But one of the interesting things to me about Prescott's Indian Art Market here at the Sharlot Hall is that, in a way, it rounds out what is an Indian cultural weekend for all of Prescott, because I'll put a little plug for the Museum of Indigenous People. They sponsor a powwow, of course, out at Wilson Lakes at the same weekend. So there are lots of good reasons to come and see two very different forms of cultural expression.
And from what I understand, it's a big weekend for our local art, like Og's Hogan, and our other community storefronts that
right. And in fact, Jeff Ogg is the head of the judges who select the winners in the different categories of art each year.
And he's been a judge here in town for a long time, hasn't he?
A long time.
And I think that the one thing about Prescott, it has a very long tradition and connection to its Native groups. We know that Linda Ogo, who's cultural director of the local Prescott Yavapai Yavapai Prescott tribe. They have a presence here at the show, isn't that right?
That's right. They'll be here usually with student work on Saturday and Sunday both in a booth near the Fremont House, so very central on campus.
Yeah, I remember last year their attendance, and they have some really nice crafts that they're trying to pass on generationally to the young people, the crafts of pottery and ceramics and other crafts, and you can go home with those little treasures. And I know that another organization here in town, along with Oggs Hogan, Black Arrow, Native American Jewelry and Art, great supporter of the Indian art market, and they are featured down on Gurley, where Oggs Hogan is down on Cortez. And so when people come to town and they come to the show and the powwow, those are two places to definitely stop downtown.
Right. Both of them beautiful places with lots of ways to tempt your wallet.
I think that it's as long as I've been coming to Prescott, there's always been a presence in town of the native craft work that can be seen across the state. It reminds me a little bit of when you're maybe in Old Scottsdale, or if you're up at the Grand Canyon, and some of the Fred Harvey offerings that have been kind of a staple of serving the native artists in the Southwest for a very long time in terms of outlets of the training posts. And I think that's one thing that I noticed at the fair is that at the market is you have a chance to sit and talk with the artists and learn about the traditions that they carry forward, how they learn their craft, and why they pursue their craft as artists. I think that's one of the most interesting things that you can't learn at a storefront, but you can learn specifically here at our art market.
Artists are different from us ordinary folk, and Indian artists are no exception. They're fired by a passion for the things they do, and it shows in the quality and the creativity, the originality of what they produce. We call it traditional, and of course it's rooted in tradition. But each of these artists brings something new, a new worldview in a sense, to the way they do things. Consider Mona Laughing, our featured artist this year, who is a weaver. Generations of weavers in her family, and she brings Navajo weaving traditions into what she does, but she does it with such an interesting visual take, that makes her creations quite different from most of what you'll think of when you think of Navajo weaving.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing her and her family here again this year at the market. We're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsors, and then come back and talk a little bit more about the artists that our visitors can meet at the Prescott Indian Art Market next weekend.
At Foothills Bank, they're not just about banking. They're about people, community, and building futures. Whether you're managing personal finances, growing your business, planning for retirement, or buying your dream home, their friendly team is there to guide you every step of the way. Stop by your local Foothills Bank today. It's more than just banking. It's a partnership for success. Foothills Bank is a division of Glacier Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Welcome back to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum. And my special guest today is Paul Fees, the Deputy Director of Program and our leader of the 27th Annual Prescott Indian Art Market. Paul's been working closely with a very strong group of volunteers, many of whom have been working and volunteering on Prescott Indian Art Market for 27 years. Paul, isn't that remarkable that we have such a great group of volunteers?
Boy, it sure is, and boy, am I lucky to be working with them. You called me the leader. No, I am in their wake. They know their roles. They know the artists. They know the community so well that they help bring it together just seamlessly, and with great joy too. There's such a sense of happiness about this event.
Well, that's what I've observed this last year, working here at the museum, watching how our volunteers here at the museum, who really make our museum so successful year after year, and have remained part of the team here at Sharlot Hall over so many decades. And at the same time, they are also partnered with our jury of Native artists who help bring in the 80-plus artists year after year, as well as our demonstrators. And we were talking before the break, during the break, a little bit about the fact that as you come and you walk through the gardens and you meet the artists and you talk to them about their art, we also have a series of artists who come each year to demonstrate their craft and why, and talk to the guests why it's important to them, why they've chosen this craft. And you can watch them and learn a little bit about their passions. And
they are teachers. They are teachers. But they are also terrific artists in their own right. And we are very fortunate to have 9 superb demonstrators, in addition to Mona Laughing, our featured artist as a weaver. But there are Hopi basket makers and kachina carvers and potters and jewelers, and it's just such an opportunity to sort of see behind the scenes of what goes into art.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'd like to spend some time watching them. I remember, I think probably I was 11 or 12, and I went to the Museum of Northern Arizona for the first time. And I was just fascinated in one of their demonstration rooms watching a Navajo weaver work her craft. And it always seemed to me as a real bonus if you went to a museum and there was someone demonstrating something. It made it more real than just kind of looking into a booth or a glass booth, but someone truly there demonstrating. It was living history. Truly.
Oh, that's true. And, yes, you're right. And also, the longer you watch, the more you understand the patience that goes into developing that kind of excellence in those particular crafts and arts.
Yeah, I think that as I've watched the artists last year, the artisanship, they are undistracted, and they can work back and forth between making their basket and looking up and just quietly, calmly listening and answering questions, and then back to their weaving as if it's watching something that has been passed down for generations, and you can watch that history happening in front of you.
Well, and in fact, a good deal of cultural transmission occurs in the practicing of these various arts. One of my favorite displays in the museum, in the Sharlot Hall Museum, in the Heart Cell Room, shows a mother and daughter. The mother is instructing the daughter in basket making. The daughter is distracted, of course, by other things, including a horned toad right at her feet. But it is so illustrative of the way that cultural transmission takes place. They're not just learning baskets; they're learning life ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that another part of the Indian art market here at Sharlot Hall Museum, as you walk through our gardens and the campus, and maybe you've stopped to talk with some of our artists and then maybe watch the demonstration, is that as you work your way over to the west side of campus, to the amphitheater, we have 2 days of music, dance, and storytelling. So another form of cultural heritage being expressed and conveyed and enjoyed, not just by the artist, but also by the audience. That's one of my favorite places to step away from the crowd and just sit back and absorb the great artistry of our musicians, dancers, and storytellers.
Right, and that's also proof of another thing that people forget about Indian culture. Indian culture is not frozen in time. It continues, like all culture, to grow and to evolve. The artists who are performing on stage bring a 21st century perspective to what they do. And it's traditional, yes, but at the same time, it's quite modern.
Right. I love the juxtaposition between, let's say, the story, song, and dance of Yellowbird with the Red Mountain Creations, their stories, songs, and dance are to Odo Odom, and the Yellowbird are San Carlos Apache, and then the Yotes, which bring, what is it, Hopi, reggae, and rock and roll?
Pretty modern, but also rooted in true traditional music and expression.
I'm always looking forward to hearing some new songs and new lyrics and some new. It's always I tell you, if you don't spend some time over the amphitheater while you're here at the Prescott Indian Art Market Saturday or Sunday, and that's the great thing is it's $10 in one entrance fee or free to members. Paul, does your $10 get you in for both days, or is it $10 each day?
$10 each day.
Right.
So,
and we get about, I think that we have about 800 people on campus each day. It's a vibrant group that come out to the market, and we also have, if you like, some really good food. We have a great food truck here that every year brings their specialty, which is Navajo tacos.
Fry bread, Sunny,
bread?
Yeah, Sunny Concessions, and they're back again this year.
Are you a fry bread friend?
Oh,
You going to line up, right?
Who is not?
Now, do you get the chili or the honey, or do you get one of each? You one in the morning with a little honey on there, and then
that's right. It's almost like a breakfast bar and then an afternoon bar. No, I'm kind of a savory guy myself.
Yeah, it gets warm in the afternoon. You get a big lemonade that'll get you through the rest of the afternoon. So, all right, we're going to take another break here and thank our sponsors, and we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about our exhibitors this year at the 27th Annual Prescott Indian Art Market at Sharlot Hall Museum.
Since 1995, Helkin & Horn Ad Agency has helped local businesses stand out and succeed from print and radio to websites and social media. You see, their talented team crafts your brand's message and offers a plan to get it out into the community. Do you want results backed by 30 years of experience? Visit AZAD, that's azadagency.com, and do it today. Helkin and Horn, where their slogan is "Be Known."
Welcome back to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum. And my special guest today is Deputy Director of Program at Sharlot Hall Museum, Paul Fees. And Paul and I were talking during the break a little bit about what brings people to the Prescott Indian Art Market for the last 27 years and why it's an important cultural event in Prescott. And, from my experience, I love coming back and sitting down and talking with the artists that I've met over the years, but also as someone who grew up in the Southwest, I like to walk through and just be surprised and be reminded of why I love the Indian art and the Indian art culture. And Paul, when do you remember first kind of being exposed and learning about the Indian arts and crafts growing up?
Interestingly, it was in Santa Fe, although I'm an Arizonan originally. But on one of our trips between Texas and Arizona, we stopped in Santa Fe, and it was at a time when at the railroad station there were still dancers.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first time I remember, at least as a little boy, being exposed to the feathers and the hoops and the dancing and the music so that's my first exposure to what we think of as Indian art, although, of course, our homes in the Southwest were always decorated to some extent with Indian or Indian-inspired art.
Right. And I think that's as you walk through the gardens and our at the Prescott Indian Art Market, you have a chance to stop and view art from all levels. I know that there is crafts and art that is for sale during the exhibit, during the art market, that that is for every budget, and new styles, not just your traditional silver and turquoise jewelry. You see traditional kachina carving, as well as ceramics and textiles and clothing. The Zuni fetish art last year I thought was very fascinating, but then there was also some jewelry, some gold and inlaid jewelry last year that could be displayed in some of the highest end salons from London to Paris to New York. Just the highest level and most expensive craftsmanship I've seen at any Indian art market before.
Right, and there's work that finds its way into museum collections all over too, that are exemplars of their particular art. One of the things that separates the Prescott Indian Art Market from markets, not necessarily Indian art markets, but from the marketing of Indian jewelry and basketry and weaving and other things overall, is that all of the artists who are juried into this art market are also certified by the American Indian Arts and Crafts Board by their tribal. They have to be certified according to their tribal affiliation. So they truly are Indian artists. They're not people inspired by and recreating something that is not out of their culture. They're people who are expressing their culture through their art.
I think that's a really fine point to make there, Paul. And one of my favorite artists I'd like to see come back every year, not to pick one person out of the 80 plus who will be here, is I always like to stop by and see Ramson Lomatuema, who's a Hopi artist whose specialty is glass blowing. He demonstrates that throughout the weekend. He brings his portable glass blowing ovens, and he's quite the character. He's been featured here for many years, and I actually met him first at the Orem School. He would come to their Fine Arts Festival and teach glass blowing to the students there, and he's a really interesting person that, as he's doing his art, you can sit and talk with him and ask him how his past year has been, and what he's where he's traveled. He travels. Many of these artists travel across the United States, around the world, telling, giving lectures and talking about their craft, their art, and their culture. I found that one of the more interesting parts of this market, because it's not supersized. It's as we said before, it's more of an intimate art market.
Right. And that's also the point about Ramson and his art. He's Hopi, and glass blowing is not what we ordinarily would think of as a traditional Hopi art. But the way it is done by Ramson is an expression of Hopi culture. Mm-hmm. So there weren't Hopi glass blowers in the 18th and 19th centuries, but there were artisans and artists who were doing something culturally that Ramson is bringing forward into the 21st century.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the diversity of artwork that and artists that and tribal affiliations here at the art market. We have a very broad group of men and women coming here from across the United States, from different backgrounds and tribal cultural backgrounds. Can we talk a little bit about where people are coming from and who they can meet here?
There are about a dozen different tribal groups or cultural groups represented here. Most of them Southwestern, but there are a couple of cultural groups, Choctaw, for example, that are also part of the art market. They range from the Quechan of extreme southwestern Arizona, the Yuma, to the Kaibab in Nevada and northern Arizona, through New Mexico and Texas, Southern California. There are Navajo and Hopi or Diné and And there are 3 different pueblos represented in the artist group this year. And Hualapai. We have Hualapai artists this year.
Yavapai
And Yavapai. It's a very diverse group. Some of them probably traditional enemies that find common ground in their art. But it's not just a monocultural experience. Indian people, I think, while Indian is all-encompassing, prefer to be known by their cultural affiliation, their tribal affiliation, and they are as aware of it as of course we are. So this is a way to experience that anyway.
And I think what's interesting also is to see the generational differences in artistry. I'd like to, what I find here is that you've seen from maybe the most traditional art forms that you might have that have been being expressed in a similar way for a couple hundred or 300 or 400 or 500 years or more. And then we also see art forms that are evolved that are the most modern, spectacular, new interpretations of their craft. I think that you can see that within booths next door to each other, and so you can really see that this breadth of time as you walk through the art market.
That's true, and in fact, there are successive generations from the same family who are taking part in the art market.
Well, we're going to take one more break here and then come back and talk a little bit more about the Indian art market, how people can learn more about it, to make plans to be here at the 27th Annual Prescott Indian Art Market at Sharlot Hall Museum, September 20th and September 21st, 2025.
For over 45 years, Blind Brothers Arizona has been the heart of window style in Prescott. From blinds, shutters, drapes, they will custom design and install with expert precision, tailored just to you, whether it's for your home or your office. You can trust the name that locals rely on. Visit blindbrothersarizona.com today or call them at 928-776-1845. Once again, that's 928-776-1845 for a free consultation. Blind Brothers Arizona, the original since 1979.
Welcome back to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum. And my special guest today is Paul Fees. He's the Deputy Director of Program here at Sharlot Hall Museum. And today we're talking about the Prescott Indian Art Market, our 27th annual event here on our campus, September 20th and 21st, 2025. $10 per person each day, or if you become a member, you can apply your entry fee to your membership, and it's free to members. We are really excited about this event coming up on the 20th and 21st, and we have to say some thanks out to our Indian Arts Advisory Council. Paul, you've been working very closely with our volunteers who work hand in hand for the full year. I mean, beginning here in just a couple of weeks, we're going to start planning our 28th annual art market. Tell me a little bit about the men and women who serve on our Indian Arts Advisory Council.
Well, they are extraordinary artists in their own right, and they also represent several different cultural groups, including Cherokee, in the case of Serena Mankiller, who does wonderful leather work. The leader of the council, and he's been leader for years, is Patrick Smith, who was our featured artist a couple of years ago.
That's right.
Extraordinary jewelry, silver work, and fine Navajo crafts, and beautiful It's breathtaking, and here
Right.
I can hardly describe
His
it.
inlay work and his techniques are extraordinary.
With turquoise and other gems and stones, but the silver work is just fabulous. And you're right, the inlay and the meshing of gold and silver. Anyway, Patrick has been, I'd say, almost tireless in promoting the market and making sure that the standards were maintained and, in fact, even raised. He's been, in good part, a leader of the art market, of the Prescott Indian art market in that respect. He's been a leader and a prize winner at markets all over the Southwest, including Santa Fe. Delmar Palaka is a potter and has, as a Hopi, represented the Hopi people on this council for several years as well.
He comes from a long legacy of ceramicists, Hopi ceramic potters.
Randy Kemp, who is a painter and also an academic, he teaches. Priscilla Taccini, who is a local almost. I mean, she's from Prescott Valley or lives there. Priscilla was last year's featured artist. She is a photographer, but she also
Digital artist.
A digital artist, yeah.
Navajo woman.
She manipulates the photography and the images to create almost otherworldly beauty. And Jerry Kotskiva, who is a Kachina carver, highly regarded. We are really blessed to have them as the group that juries the artists who want to participate, but also have through their own excellence have helped raise the standards for the presentation here at Prescott Indian Art Market.
And, I really enjoy all of their artwork. And the one thing about the art market is you can stop by each of their booths and sit down and speak with them. And I'm really looking forward to spending time with all of them at this art market.
They're all real celebrities in their fields. So it is a privilege to sit down and visit with them, just to meet them.
Well, and each year we reach out to our community, and we're very fortunate here at Sharlot Hall to have such community support. I was taking a look here at our sponsors this year, in addition to our volunteers and our Indian Arts Advisory Council. We have received support here. I just want to mention their names. APS, local radio station KYCA. Experience Prescott. We get such support from the city and also the Prescott Chamber of Commerce, Foothills Bank, of course, Bennett Oil, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Findlay Toyota, Spring Hill Suites, which helps us so much with our hotel rooms, and of course, at the top of the heap, we are so grateful for the support of the Yavapai Prescott Indian Tribe and Linda Ogo, who is on our board here. It's in real true partnership with these supporters who help us make this market successful each year.
And the Yavapai Prescott, of course, will have their own market, their own show of Yavapai arts and crafts, not too far in the future from this.
Right. I think that's it's really important for people to know that. And as I walk through the exhibit booths and spend time here at the museum, I look forward to each year being surprised by new artwork. And I think to myself, what is it that I'm going to take home this year? What will inspire me? What will I learn? And I think that that's the other part of this Indian art market, where many of them are very large, and ours is a place that you can return each year and spend time with artists that you have known over the years, and also meet new people, and they will spend quality time answering your questions, and you really get to know the artists, and they remember you as well.
And they appreciate being on the campus, this gorgeous campus with its trees and shrubs and flowers. It is an oasis. And I think that that's reflected in the relaxed and happy atmosphere that all of the artists convey when they're here.
Mm-hmm. Paul, as a scholar of Sharlot Hall's life, and the more I get to know about her, what I think is very interesting about the art market, to me, that it is an extension of our mission. It's an extension of who she was as a young woman, as she served the territory of Arizona as an official historian, but also someone who was what would call maybe a more modern term, but she was a culture keeper, someone who promoted the history and heritage of all peoples of Arizona.
She was, but she also was an artist, and we forget that sometimes. She was noted as a poet before we ever heard of her as an historian.
Right.
And I think that she recognized that spark in other people as well and encouraged it. And that's one of the things that made her so appreciative of the Indian people that she encountered in all of Arizona, not just in the Prescott area.
Well, Paul, before we close up this episode of Arizona Roundup, is there anything this year that any artwork that you have followed from your youth to the present that really you love in terms of the artistry of American Indian art?
I think that because we were always surrounded by baskets when I was a kid, badly made baskets that fell apart, but also baskets that were so well made that they'd hold water. I'm particularly interested in watching the basket makers this year.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I will follow up with you on that. Last year I remember sitting and watching the basket makers and this kind of infinite patience of their work. I also we have a handful of Kachina carvers, but have different styles, and I invite our visitors to walk through the gardens and stop and pause, kind of create different circles as you walk through the gardens, and maybe, okay, I'm going to stop. And you can when you walk in, you get this guide map to the campus, and there's numbers for each of the artists. But I like to go and watch each of the Kachina artists and watch their different styles and their personalities, because some of them are quiet and don't say a thing while they're doing their art, and other of them are very talkative and very engaging. And it's interesting just to make the circles or make the rounds of different crafts of different artists and get to and watch their different styles.
There's so many different things to look for. There are doll makers.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you talk about carvers. It's not just Kachinas. There are sculptors who are creating things out of wood and out of other materials, stone. There are Zuni fetish carvers.
Oh, right.
Very fine work.
Is there a toy maker? I see someone on here makes tops. Is that?
Yes, they're tops. That's what they are. And a woman who makes dolls for children. I'm sure they're meant for children, but adults appreciate them too.
Of course. Well, we invite our audience to make plans to be in Prescott on September 20th and 21st, on Saturday from 9 to 5, on Sunday the 21st, 9 to 4, the 27th Annual Prescott Indian Art Market at Sharlot Hall Museum. We look forward to seeing you there, and if you can't make plans in 2025, we will see you in 2026 for the 28th Annual Prescott Indian Art Market in the third week of September. Thanks, Paul, for being our guest this week on Arizona Roundup.
Thank you, Stuart.
Well, that's a wrap, folks, and I just had to take a little extra time with the going out music to just kind of say, boy, What a wonderful program. My name is Stan Houston. I am the leader of the What It Takes Radio and the Cowboy Spirit Radio Network, and it's my privilege and pleasure to bring this fine podcast program to you. And one of the reasons I do this is because I don't want programs just done by professionals. This program done by Stuart and Paul, and it's one of the best. Really entertaining, informative, and I learned a lot of things about life and business and the way the world is going. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Stuart. And I thank you, many of you who are listeners and many of you who are sponsors. And I thank the Sharlot Hall Museum and that wonderful staff that really makes the whole thing possible. And so, all the best and blessings to you. Be a good cowboy. And you know, cowboys are not a gender, it's a state of mind. Walk tall. Treat every person you meet as the most important person in the world. Make sure that the world's just a little bit better because you are here. That's the cowboy way. I'm Stan Houston, wishing you all the best, and please come back for another edition, another episode, another radio adventure in Arizona Roundup. Until then, bye for now.